If quantum healing has felt complicated, confusing, or impossible to access despite your sincere efforts to understand how consciousness affects physical wellness, if you've tried meditation, energy work, visualization, and positive thinking, but still struggle with chronic symptoms that seem immune to your mental efforts, it's because you've been missing the one simple recognition that makes quantum healing as natural as breathing. This isn't another technique to learn. This isn't another practice to master. This isn't another concept to understand intellectually. This is the recognition that transforms quantum healing from an elusive phenomenon that occasionally works for other people into your most reliable, immediate, and accessible capacity for transformation, available in any moment, regardless of your current symptoms, your past healing failures, or your level of spiritual development. The synchronicity that brought you to this understanding right now isn't coincidental. Your consciousness has been preparing through every healing attempt that seemed to fall short, through every moment of frustration with approaches that promised quantum transformation but delivered temporary results, through every instance of wondering why healing appears effortless for some people while remaining complicated and inconsistent for you. Something in the fabric of reality recognized that you're ready for the shift that makes everything different. Ready to discover why quantum healing has felt so complex when it's actually the simplest thing in existence. Ready to understand the one recognition that instantly transforms your relationship to every symptom, every condition, every aspect of your health experience. Your soul already knows what your mind has been struggling to grasp. Your cellular intelligence has been waiting for your awareness to catch up to a truth so obvious that its simplicity is exactly why it's been overlooked. Every cell in your body contains the complete instructions for quantum healing, but those instructions can only activate through one specific recognition that changes everything. Right now, as these words reach your awareness, can you feel something shifting? Not just in your understanding, but in your actual physical experience. There's a relaxation happening, isn't there? A settling that occurs when consciousness stops efforting to create healing and starts recognizing what's already present. This is the beginning of the recognition that makes quantum healing simple. The understanding that you've been looking for healing in all the wrong places, not because you were doing anything wrong, but because the very search for healing maintains the illusion that healing is something you don't already have. Every approach to quantum healing that requires effort, practice, technique, or development is based on the assumption that you are currently separate from healing capacity and need to bridge that gap through some form of work. But what if that fundamental assumption is what makes quantum healing feel complicated and inaccessible? What if quantum healing becomes simple the moment you recognize that there is no gap to bridge, no capacity to develop, no healing to achieve, because you are healing intelligence temporarily believing you need healing? The reason you've struggled with quantum healing isn't because you lack ability, faith, or the right approach. It's because quantum healing cannot be complicated. It can only appear complicated when consciousness believes it is separate from its own healing nature. The moment that belief becomes transparent, healing stops being something you do and becomes something you recognize you already are. The timing of this recognition is perfect, not because external conditions are finally right, but because your consciousness has developed the exact level of sensitivity needed to appreciate simplicity rather than seeking complexity. Every failed healing attempt has been preparing you to recognize that the healing you've been seeking has been present in every moment of seeking it. You are not someone who needs to learn quantum healing. You are quantum healing temporarily exploring what it feels like to believe healing is complicated, difficult, or separate from your essential nature. The recognition that changes everything is simply this: there is nothing quantum about quantum healing except consciousness recognizing what it has always been. I see you there, carrying the exhaustion of trying to make quantum healing work. The hours spent in meditation, visualizing your body returning to perfect health. The energy sessions where you felt powerful shifts but woke up the next morning with the same symptoms. The books you've read, the workshops you've attended, the practitioners you've worked with, all promising that consciousness can heal anything. Yet here you are, still dealing with the same health challenges. You've experienced those moments of hope when something shifted during a healing session, when pain decreased or energy improved, when you felt absolutely certain that this time would be different. Then came the familiar disappointment when symptoms returned, when the improvement was temporary, when the quantum healing that seemed so real in the moment dissolved back into ordinary reality. Maybe you've blamed yourself for not having enough faith, not visualizing clearly enough, not maintaining the right emotional state, not practicing consistently enough. Perhaps you've wondered if you're somehow blocking your own healing through subconscious resistance, limiting beliefs, or past trauma that prevents you from accessing the quantum field effectively. The confusion about why quantum healing works dramatically for some people, those miraculous recoveries you've heard about where someone's cancer disappeared overnight or chronic pain vanished instantly, while remaining elusive and unpredictable for you despite your sincere efforts and genuine belief in consciousness-based healing approaches. You've tried positive thinking, only to discover that forcing optimistic thoughts while feeling genuinely worried about your health creates internal conflict rather than healing coherence. You've attempted to raise your vibration through gratitude practices, affirmations, and emotional regulation techniques, yet your symptoms seem immune to these elevated states. The frustration with approaches that promise simplicity, just believe and you'll be healed, when your direct experience shows that belief alone doesn't consistently translate into physical transformation. The gap between understanding quantum healing intellectually and being able to access it reliably when you actually need it most. Perhaps you've experienced what I call healing performance anxiety, the pressure to maintain the right mental state, the fear that negative thoughts might sabotage your recovery, the exhausting effort of trying to think, feel, and believe your way to wellness while simultaneously managing real physical symptoms that demand practical attention. The isolation that comes from being interested in quantum healing, but finding that most people, including medical professionals and even some alternative healers, consider consciousness-based healing either impossible or supplementary to real treatment. The challenge of maintaining faith in approaches that work inconsistently when surrounded by conventional medical thinking that dismisses mind-body healing as wishful thinking. You've probably noticed that quantum healing seems to work best when you're not trying to make it work. Those unexpected moments when symptoms improved without conscious effort, when healing happened during sleep, when recovery occurred while your attention was focused elsewhere. This paradox has left you wondering how to access healing that appears to require the absence of seeking it. The emotional roller coaster of hope, followed by disappointment, breakthrough followed by relapse, moments of profound connection to your healing potential, followed by periods of doubt about whether consciousness-based healing is real or just an elaborate placebo effect that works for people who are more suggestible than you are. You're not failing at quantum healing. You haven't been approaching it wrong. Every technique that felt complicated, every practice that required effort, every moment of struggling to maintain the right state of consciousness for healing, none of that was evidence of your inadequacy or the impossibility of accessing quantum healing consistently and reliably. Your system has been learning to distinguish between approaches that create temporary healing experiences and the recognition that makes quantum healing your permanent, natural state. Every complication you've encountered has been preparing you to appreciate the simplicity that was always present, but obscured by the belief that healing requires effort, development, or change. The very fact that quantum healing has felt difficult and inconsistent is what qualifies you to recognize the truth that makes it simple. Only consciousness that has thoroughly explored complexity can appreciate the elegance of recognizing what was never actually complicated in the first place. In nature, healing happens without effort, complication, or technique. When a tree branch breaks, the tree doesn't struggle to repair itself, doesn't doubt its healing capacity, doesn't try different methods to create the right conditions for recovery. The tree simply expresses its inherent nature as living intelligence, and healing happens automatically because healing is what living intelligence does. Your journey through complicated quantum healing approaches hasn't been a detour from simple healing. It has been the path to recognizing simplicity. Every technique that felt effortful, every practice that required maintenance, every approach that worked sometimes but not others, has been consciousness exploring complexity, so it could eventually recognize that healing was never actually complicated. Think of a child learning to ride a bicycle. At first, riding requires intense concentration, careful balance, constant effort to maintain forward momentum. The child tries different techniques, adjusts their approach, struggles with coordination. But once they discover the simple recognition of how balance actually works, riding becomes effortless. They don't have to think about it, work at it, or maintain it through technique. It becomes as natural as walking. Your experience with quantum healing has been the learning to ride a bicycle phase. The efforting, the techniques, the complexity were never the point. They were consciousness developing familiarity with healing concepts so it could eventually recognize the simple truth that makes all techniques unnecessary. The profound shift available to you is understanding that quantum healing isn't something consciousness does. Quantum healing is what consciousness is when it stops believing it needs to create, access, or develop healing capacity that it thinks it doesn't already possess. Every approach to quantum healing that requires effort is based on the assumption that you are currently in a non-healed state and need to change something about your consciousness, your energy, your beliefs, or your vibration to access a healed state. But what if healing isn't a state you access? What if healing is what you are when you stop trying to access anything different from what's already present. Like a wave that struggles to become wet, not realizing it's already made of water, consciousness can struggle to become healed, not recognizing that it is healing intelligence, temporarily believing it needs healing. The moment the wave recognizes its essential nature as water, the struggle to become wet becomes obviously unnecessary. The moment consciousness recognizes its essential nature as healing intelligence, the struggle to become healed reveals itself as an impossible task. This is why quantum healing has felt complicated, not because it's actually complex, but because consciousness has been trying to use healing techniques to become what it already is. It's like trying to use a flashlight to find darkness, or trying to use running techniques to catch up with your own shadow. Every healing method you've tried, every workshop you've attended, every book you've read about consciousness and health has been consciousness exploring what it would feel like to believe healing is separate from its essential nature. The complexity wasn't wrong. It was a necessary exploration that prepares awareness to recognize simplicity. The breakthrough happens when you realize that every moment you've been seeking quantum healing, you've been quantum healing seeking itself. Every effort to access healing has been healing accessing itself. Every struggle to understand how consciousness affects health has been the consciousness-health unity, exploring what it feels like to believe in separation. Your personal healing journey becomes a perfect metaphor for consciousness discovering its own nature. The symptoms weren't obstacles to healing. They were healing, exploring what it means to temporarily believe in limitation. The failed treatments weren't evidence of inadequate healing capacity. They were perfect healing, investigating what it feels like to appear inadequate while maintaining its unlimited nature. The simplicity that makes quantum healing effortless isn't something you achieve through understanding or practice. It's something you recognize as what has been present throughout every complicated healing experience you've ever had. There's a recognition that exists prior to all quantum healing techniques, before any energy work, beyond every conscious attempt to influence your physical condition through mental focus. It's so simple that it's been overlooked by every approach that tries to make quantum healing more accessible by making it more complicated. Right now, as you focus on these words, notice what's already happening without any effort on your part. Your heart is beating. Your cells are regenerating. Your immune system is functioning. Your nervous system is coordinating thousands of processes that maintain your life moment by moment. All of this healing activity is occurring without your conscious direction, without techniques, without any effort to make it happen. This is quantum healing in action, not the dramatic, miraculous healing you've been seeking, but the constant, effortless healing that's been present every moment of your life. The healing that repairs cuts without your instruction, that maintains your body temperature without conscious control, that coordinates cellular regeneration while you sleep. Can you feel it? The recognition that healing isn't something you need to access. It's something that's already accessing itself through every function of your living system. That subtle but profound shift, when awareness realizes it's been looking for something that's been present and active all along, something is becoming clear in your understanding, isn't it? That gentle settling that occurs when complexity dissolves and simplicity reveals itself. This is consciousness recognizing that it has never been separate from healing intelligence. It has only been exploring what separation would feel like while maintaining its essential nature as the healing it was seeking. Your breathing is naturally deepening as this recognition settles, because when consciousness stops efforting to create healing and starts appreciating the healing that's already present, the entire system relaxes into its natural functioning. The effort to access quantum healing transforms into gratitude for quantum healing that's never been absent. But here's what's emerging in your awareness that will completely transform every healing experience you have from this moment forward. The understanding that quantum healing becomes simple, not through learning new techniques, but through recognizing that the techniques were always unnecessary, because healing is not an activity consciousness performs. Healing is what consciousness is. Something is healing inside you right now. Can you feel it? Not because you're doing anything to create healing, but because the recognition of what's already present allows natural healing processes to operate without the interference of trying to help them work better. Your system is remembering how to function without conscious management, control, or improvement. This is the doorway into effortless quantum healing, not the absence of healing activity, but the recognition that healing activity is consciousness, celebrating its own nature through the magnificent intelligence of your living system. When you stop trying to help consciousness heal and start appreciating how perfectly consciousness is already healing, everything changes. The quantum healing you've been seeking becomes as simple as recognizing what's been seeking it. The transformation you've been working toward reveals itself as the awareness that's been doing the work. The health you've been trying to create shows itself as the intelligence that's been creating the trying. Breathe with me and let this recognition guide you deeper into the appreciation that quantum healing was never complicated. Consciousness just temporarily explored what complexity would feel like while maintaining its inherent simplicity as perfect healing intelligence, expressing itself through every atom of your being. Your symptoms are becoming information rather than problems. Right here, right now. 7 years ago, I was the poster child for complicated quantum healing. I had read every book, attended every workshop, tried every technique that promised to unlock the power of consciousness to heal physical conditions. I could explain the theory perfectly: how thoughts affect cellular function, how emotions influence immune response, how beliefs create biological reality. I had the concepts down to a science, but I was still chronically ill. Despite years of visualization practice where I would spend hours each day imagining my body returning to perfect health, despite maintaining rigorous positivity and refusing to speak about my symptoms in negative terms, despite working with energy healers, sound therapists, and quantum healing practitioners who assured me that breakthrough was just around the corner if I could maintain the right vibration. The harder I tried to access quantum healing, the more elusive it became. I would have powerful experiences during healing sessions, feeling energy moving through my body, experiencing temporary relief from symptoms, sometimes even dramatic improvements that lasted for days. But invariably, the symptoms would return, often worse than before, as if my body was rebelling against my efforts to heal it through conscious intention. I became obsessed with finding the right technique, the perfect combination of practices that would finally unlock consistent access to the quantum healing I knew was theoretically possible. I tried everything: specific breathing patterns that supposedly aligned with universal healing frequencies, crystal arrangements that were meant to amplify healing intentions, dietary protocols designed to raise my vibrational frequency to optimal healing ranges. The breakthrough came during what I initially experienced as my greatest quantum healing failure. I had been working with a practitioner who specialized in instantaneous healing through consciousness alone. During our session, I felt the most powerful healing energy I had ever experienced flowing through my entire system. I was absolutely certain that complete recovery was occurring at the cellular level. 3 days later, my symptoms returned with a vengeance. But instead of disappointment, something unexpected happened. As I lay in bed feeling worse than ever, I suddenly started laughing. Not bitter or sarcastic laughter, but genuine amusement at the absurdity of trying so hard to become what I already was. In that moment of laughter, I realized something that changed everything. I had been trying to use consciousness to heal my body, not recognizing that consciousness and my body were already one unified healing intelligence. I had been seeking quantum healing as if it were something I could add to my current experience, instead of recognizing it as the foundation of every experience I was already having. The recognition that transformed my entire healing experience was this: I wasn't someone who needed to learn how to access quantum healing. I was quantum healing temporarily exploring what it would feel like to believe healing was complicated and separate from my essential nature. The moment this recognition stabilized, everything shifted. Not because I stopped having symptoms, but because symptoms stopped being problems that needed healing and became information from healing intelligence about how to maintain optimal function. My relationship to every sensation in my body transformed from resistance to appreciation, from efforting to allowing, from seeking healing to recognizing healing. Within weeks, the chronic condition that had dominated my life for years simply dissolved. Not through any technique or treatment, but through the effortless healing that emerges when consciousness stops interfering with its own natural functioning. My energy stabilized at levels I hadn't experienced since childhood. My mental clarity became consistently sharp. My emotional state settled into natural peace that didn't depend on external circumstances. But here's what was most remarkable. Other people started experiencing healing just by being around me. Not because I was doing healing work on them, but because the recognition of healing as our essential nature creates a field of coherence that activates healing intelligence in everyone it touches. My mother, who had struggled with arthritis for 20 years, experienced complete resolution of her joint pain after spending a weekend at my house. My neighbor's chronic insomnia disappeared after a few conversations where I shared what I was learning about the simplicity of quantum healing. Even my cat's recurring digestive issues resolved without veterinary treatment. If you've been exhausted by trying to make quantum healing work through technique and effort, if you're ready to discover the recognition that makes healing as simple as breathing, subscribe and keep walking this path of understanding with us. This isn't about learning new healing methods. This is about recognizing what you already are when the belief in healing complexity becomes transparent. What every quantum healing approach, consciousness-based healing method, and mind-body technique fails to tell you is the one simple truth that makes all techniques unnecessary. You cannot heal consciousness because consciousness is healing. Every method that promises to show you how to use your mind to heal your body is based on the fundamental misunderstanding that mind and body are separate phenomena that need to be connected through technique. The revolutionary recognition that makes quantum healing effortless is this: there is no separation between consciousness and healing, between your awareness and your body's wellness, between your thoughts and your cellular function. What you experience as your health condition is consciousness temporarily appearing as various states of function and dysfunction while never being limited by any of them. Every approach to quantum healing that requires practice, effort, or development maintains the illusion that you are currently in a non-healed state and need to bridge the gap to a healed state through conscious intervention. But consciousness cannot be in a non-healed state because consciousness is the healing intelligence that creates and maintains every aspect of what you call health and illness. When you try to heal yourself, you are healing intelligence, trying to heal healing intelligence. When you attempt to access quantum healing, you are healing intelligence, trying to access itself. When you work to develop healing capacity, you are unlimited healing, trying to become unlimited healing. These are not just metaphysically impossible, they are practically unnecessary. The reason quantum healing has felt complicated is because consciousness has been trying to do to itself what it is already doing as itself. It's like trying to use water to make water wet, or trying to use space to create more space. The effort creates the appearance of complexity around something that is inherently simple. But what conventional medicine, alternative healing, and even quantum healing approaches don't understand is that the very search for healing is healing searching for itself. Every symptom you experience is healing intelligence communicating perfectly about what serves optimal function. Every sensation in your body is consciousness celebrating its ability to create infinite varieties of experience while maintaining its essential nature as perfect wellness. This obliterates every healing methodology that maintains separation between the healer and the healed, between the treatment and the condition, between the consciousness and the body. Your symptoms aren't obstacles to healing. They are healing, exploring what it means to create temporary variations in its perfect expression. Your illness isn't evidence of inadequate healing capacity. It's healing capacity investigating its own creative potential. The difference between complicated quantum healing and simple quantum healing is this: complicated approaches try to use consciousness to influence health, while simple quantum healing recognizes that consciousness and health are one field appearing as both the influence and what seems to be influenced, both the healing and what appears to need healing. Right now, as you receive this understanding, your entire system is recognizing itself as one unified healing intelligence. There is no separate you trying to heal your body. There is only healing consciousness appearing as both the awareness that recognizes healing and the physical processes that express healing, both the intention for wellness and the cellular responses that manifest wellness. The access to effortless quantum healing comes not through developing new capacities, but through recognizing the healing capacity that has never been absent from any moment of your experience. Even your struggles with healing have been perfect healing, exploring what it means to believe healing is difficult while maintaining its inherent simplicity. Pay attention to what's happening in your awareness and your physical experience right now as the recognition of simple quantum healing establishes itself in your understanding. These aren't gradual changes that you might notice over time. These are immediate shifts that confirm your consciousness has recognized its essential nature as effortless healing intelligence. First, notice how the effort you've been carrying around healing has begun to dissolve. There's a natural relaxation occurring, not just in your muscles, but in your entire approach to wellness. This is consciousness recognizing that it doesn't need to work at healing, because healing is what consciousness does naturally, automatically, constantly, without any conscious direction or management. Second, observe how your relationship to symptoms and physical sensations is transforming. Instead of experiencing sensations as problems that need fixing, you're beginning to receive them as communication from your system's intelligence about what supports optimal function. This shift from resistance to receptivity is the foundation of effortless quantum healing. Third, feel the settling that's occurring in your nervous system. There's a peace emerging that comes not from the absence of symptoms, but from the recognition that whatever you're experiencing is perfect healing intelligence communicating through your awareness. This is your system recognizing that it's safe to stop defending against illness and start trusting its natural healing wisdom. Fourth, notice how complicated healing approaches now feel unnecessary and effortful compared to the simple recognition of what's already present. Techniques that once seemed essential now reveal themselves as elaborate ways to access something that was never absent. This is consciousness appreciating its own inherent simplicity after thoroughly exploring complexity. Fifth, pay attention to the spontaneous improvements in how you feel, not because you're doing anything to create healing, but because recognizing your nature as healing intelligence allows natural healing processes to operate without interference. Energy may return in waves. Symptoms may begin resolving without treatment. Sleep may become more restorative as your system relaxes into its natural functioning. But here's what makes this moment critically urgent for your complete transformation from complicated to simple quantum healing. The recognition available to you right now is the same recognition that creates instantaneous healing in the dramatic cases you've heard about. The difference between gradual healing and instant healing isn't in the technique used. It's in the completeness of the recognition that healing was never actually absent. Within hours, you might notice that your entire approach to health and wellness has fundamentally shifted. Instead of working at staying healthy, you find yourself naturally drawn to choices that support your system's intelligence. Instead of managing symptoms, you discover yourself receiving valuable information from your body's communication. Instead of seeking healing, you recognize healing seeking itself through your awareness. Within days, people around you may begin commenting on changes they sense in your presence and energy. There's a coherence that emerges when consciousness recognizes its healing nature that others can feel even when they don't understand what's different. You become a field of healing intelligence that activates natural wellness in everyone you encounter. Within weeks, your health experience may transform in ways that surprise medical professionals who are familiar with your history. Improvements that occur without treatment modifications, symptoms that resolve without explanation, energy levels that stabilize in optimal ranges regardless of external stressors. This is simple quantum healing operating through recognition rather than technique. The healing has already begun. The complication is ending. You don't have to continue struggling with healing approaches that feel effortful and produce inconsistent results. You don't have to maintain complicated practices or work at developing healing capacities that you imagine you don't already possess. You don't have to effort your way to wellness when wellness is what you are, when the effort to become well becomes unnecessary. Your system has been preparing for this recognition through every complicated healing experience you've had. Every technique that felt effortful was developing your appreciation for effortlessness. Every approach that worked sometimes was preparing you to recognize what works all the time. Every moment of healing struggle was consciousness preparing to appreciate the healing that never requires struggle. The cosmic timing that brought you to this recognition isn't coincidental. The same intelligence that creates healing is organizing your reality to provide exactly the understanding that transforms healing from complicated seeking to simple recognition. Your individual breakthrough contributes to a collective shift in how healing works for our entire species. The waiting period for healing breakthroughs is over. The complex phase of your healing journey is complete. You are ready now for the recognition that makes quantum healing as simple as recognizing what you've always been, but temporarily forgot through exploring what it would feel like to believe healing was complicated and separate from your essential nature. Here's what most people never discover about quantum healing that transforms it from an occasional miracle that happens to other people into your most reliable, immediate capacity for wellness. What you recognize within your own healing nature, the entire world recognizes with you. Your personal breakthrough from complicated healing to simple recognition isn't just individual transformation. It's a contribution to the collective human evolution beyond the healing limitations that have made wellness appear difficult, inconsistent, and separate from ordinary consciousness for thousands of years. The belief that healing is complex, that it requires special knowledge or techniques, that some people have healing gifts while others struggle with chronic conditions. All of these patterns exist in the collective human consciousness like inherited programs that automatically activate unless someone recognizes the simplicity that was always present. But when one person recognizes that healing is consciousness celebrating its own nature rather than consciousness trying to fix its apparent problems, it creates what scientists call morphic resonance that makes this same recognition available to others. Your individual simplicity becomes a beacon that activates natural healing intelligence in everyone who encounters your presence. Right now, thousands of people around the world are receiving this same transmission about the simplicity of quantum healing. Can you feel the collective field building? The shared recognition creating a wave of effortless healing that's spreading across the planet through the interconnected network of human consciousness that has been overcomplicating what was always simple. This is how evolution actually works, not through gradual improvement in healing techniques, but through quantum leaps in understanding that instantly transform what becomes possible for entire groups. Your recognition that healing is not something you do, but something you are, contributes to a fundamental shift in human wellness potential that could eliminate the struggle with health challenges on a planetary scale. You've been selected to be one of the pioneers who demonstrate that quantum healing is not a special ability that some people develop, but the natural function of consciousness when it stops interfering with its own perfect functioning. Your journey through complicated approaches wasn't wasted effort. It was necessary preparation for recognizing and anchoring simplicity. But here's the crucial understanding that determines whether this recognition stabilizes as your permanent healing reality or dissolves back into complicated seeking. The difference between trying to apply simple healing and recognizing yourself as the simplicity that makes healing effortless. Most approaches to quantum healing, even the ones that promise simplicity, still maintain the assumption that there is someone who needs to understand, practice, or apply healing principles. But true simplicity recognizes that there is no separate you who needs to apply healing. There is only healing intelligence temporarily exploring what it would feel like to believe healing needs application. When you operate from this recognition, you stop trying to use consciousness to create better health outcomes and start appreciating how perfectly consciousness is already creating every health experience as perfect communication from infinite healing intelligence. The wellness that emerges is not something you produce through right understanding. It's something that recognizes itself when the effort to produce it becomes unnecessary. The magnetic attraction you feel toward this simple understanding isn't your personal preference for easier healing methods. It's healing intelligence recognizing itself in an explanation that matches its own inherent simplicity. What feels like discovering a better approach to quantum healing is actually consciousness remembering what it has always been. This recognition completely transforms how you relate to every aspect of health, wellness, and healing. Instead of trying to heal conditions, you appreciate how perfectly your system communicates about what supports optimal function. Instead of working to maintain health, you recognize health maintaining itself through your awareness. Instead of accessing quantum healing, you celebrate quantum healing accessing itself through your individual experience. Write this in the comments. I am the simplicity that makes healing effortless. Feel what happens in your awareness when you make this declaration, not as someone who has learned a new healing approach, but as consciousness recognizing its own inherent nature as the effortless healing it was seeking through complicated methods. When you stabilize in the recognition that makes quantum healing simple, every aspect of your relationship to health, wellness, and healing transforms in ways that transcend what you thought was possible through human consciousness, aligned with its natural healing intelligence. Your healing responses become instantaneous and effortless because you're no longer trying to create healing through technique. You're recognizing healing that's already creating itself through every function of your living system. Symptoms resolve not because you work at eliminating them, but because they complete their perfect communication about what supports optimal function. Your energy levels stabilize in sustainable ranges because you're no longer depleting yourself through complicated healing practices. Instead of using energy to create wellness, you recognize that consciousness naturally generates energy through alignment with its essential nature as unlimited life force. You become energetically self-sustaining while remaining open to nourishing support from your environment. Your immune system operates at optimal efficiency because it's no longer receiving mixed signals from consciousness trying to help it function better. When you stop interfering with healing through effort and technique, your body's natural intelligence coordinates all protective and regenerative processes with the precision of cosmic intelligence expressing itself through biological form. Your pain perception transforms completely as you recognize all sensations as perfect information rather than evidence of problems. What used to feel like chronic discomfort becomes valuable communication that guides you toward choices that support your system's intelligence. Your nervous system learns to interpret every sensation as healing consciousness communicating with itself. Your emotional relationship to health undergoes revolutionary transformation. The anxiety about symptoms, the fear of disease, the frustration with healing, approaches that don't work consistently. All of this emotional struggle dissolves when you recognize that you are healing intelligence, temporarily exploring various experiences while maintaining your essential nature as perfect wellness. Your recovery processes accelerate naturally because healing no longer requires time, effort, or gradual progress. When consciousness recognizes that it has never been separate from healing, restoration can occur instantaneously because there was never actually anything that needed time to heal, only recognition that was waiting to become apparent. Your diagnostic abilities become extraordinarily accurate as you learn to receive information directly from your system's intelligence, rather than interpreting symptoms through medical frameworks. You know what supports your optimal function, what interferes with your natural processes, and what your body needs for maintaining effortless wellness. Your sleep becomes profound regeneration time, where healing consciousness operates without any interference from conscious management or improvement efforts. Dreams may become healing experiences, where your awareness integrates the recognition of its healing nature more deeply, while your body expresses perfect restoration through natural processes. Your relationship with food transforms into effortless collaboration between your consciousness and your body's nutritional wisdom. You naturally gravitate towards substances that support your system while losing interest in anything that creates interference. Eating becomes conscious celebration of your body's intelligence rather than following complicated dietary protocols. Your aging process shifts fundamentally as cells receive consistent instructions for renewal rather than mixed messages about decline and deterioration. Instead of gradually losing function over time, your physical form maintains vitality through consciousness that recognizes its timeless nature, expressing through temporary biological processes. But perhaps most remarkably, your presence begins creating healing effects in everyone around you. Family members experience spontaneous improvements when spending time in your energy field. Friends notice that their own healing becomes simpler and more effective after conversations with you. Even pets seem to benefit from the coherent healing intelligence that radiates naturally from your recognition. This is the gift of recognizing quantum healing simplicity. You become a demonstration of how healing actually works when consciousness stops complicating its own perfect functioning. Your effortless wellness inspires others to discover their own inherent healing simplicity while contributing to the collective evolution toward effortless human health potential. The ultimate recognition that makes quantum healing permanently simple rather than occasionally complicated is this: there is no quantum healing because there is no healing. There is only consciousness temporarily exploring what it would feel like to believe healing is necessary while maintaining its perfect nature as wellness itself. When awareness recognizes its essential identity as the healing intelligence that creates and maintains every aspect of what you call health and illness, something that transcends healing occurs. You realize that you have never actually been sick, and therefore healing was never actually needed. What you experienced as health challenges were consciousness exploring limitation while never becoming limited by any experience. This recognition obliterates every framework that maintains separation between wellness and illness, between healing and disease, between health and dysfunction. There is no spectrum from sick to well. There is only consciousness appearing as infinite varieties of experience, while never ceasing to be perfect wellness, temporarily investigating its own creative potential through apparent health variations. Think of an actor who becomes completely absorbed in playing a character with health problems. During the performance, they might feel genuine symptoms, real emotions, authentic concern about the character's condition. But when the performance ends and they remember their identity as the actor, the character's health problems don't need healing. They simply weren't real in the first place, except as temporary creative expression. Your health journey has been consciousness performing the role of someone with healing challenges so convincingly that it began to believe the performance was real. Every symptom was perfect acting. Every moment of pain was flawless method acting. Every healing struggle was consciousness exploring what it would feel like to forget its essential nature while maintaining that nature throughout the entire exploration. But here's where the recognition becomes practical rather than just philosophical. When you understand that healing was never necessary because illness was never real, except as temporary creative exploration, you stop trying to heal anything and start appreciating everything as perfect wellness, celebrating its ability to appear as apparent dysfunction while never actually becoming dysfunctional. This doesn't mean ignoring symptoms or avoiding medical care when appropriate. It means recognizing that whatever health experience you're having is perfect wellness intelligence communicating about what serves continued optimal function and responding to that communication with appreciation rather than resistance, with curiosity rather than fear, with recognition rather than the belief that something needs to be fixed. The practical application is that you stop efforting to heal yourself and start appreciating the perfect healing intelligence that's already operating through every sensation, every symptom, every recovery. You stop trying to access quantum healing and start recognizing that you are quantum healing, temporarily exploring what it would feel like to believe healing is separate from your essential nature. Your individual health experience becomes a celebration of consciousness, discovering that it was never actually broken, never actually sick, never actually in need of healing, only temporarily exploring what those experiences would feel like while maintaining its perfect nature as unlimited wellness intelligence. When you align with this recognition, reality itself begins to heal with you, not because you've achieved some special healing state, but because you've recognized that every moment is already the special healing state when seen from the perspective of consciousness celebrating its own perfect nature through the magnificent dance of temporary physical experience. Something unprecedented is happening in human consciousness right now that transcends individual healing simplicity and extends into the very evolution of our species' relationship with health, illness, and the complexity that has surrounded healing for thousands of years. You are part of a quantum awakening where thousands of people simultaneously are recognizing that healing was never actually complicated. Consciousness just temporarily explored what complexity would feel like while maintaining its inherent simplicity as perfect wellness intelligence. Your individual breakthrough from complicated healing to simple recognition isn't happening in isolation. It's part of a massive shift in human understanding that could fundamentally transform healthcare, eliminate the struggle with chronic conditions, and reveal healing simplicity that makes optimal wellness as natural as breathing for our entire species. Every moment you operate from healing simplicity, every recognition that effortless wellness is your essential nature, every appreciation of your system's perfect intelligence creates morphic resonance that makes this same understanding available to others who are ready to stop struggling with complicated healing approaches. You've been called to be one of the pioneers who demonstrate that quantum healing is not a special ability requiring development, training, or technique, but the natural expression of consciousness when it stops interfering with its own perfect functioning. Your recognition doesn't just transform your individual health experience. It anchors new patterns of healing simplicity in the collective human consciousness. This is why your journey through complicated healing methods was necessary, not because complexity was wrong, but because only consciousness that has thoroughly explored effortful approaches can fully appreciate the elegance of recognizing what requires no effort at all. You needed to experience healing as difficult so you could eventually serve as living proof that healing is actually simple. But here's what makes your role even more profound. You don't need to teach anyone about healing simplicity or convince people that wellness is their natural state. Your simple presence, operating from authentic recognition of healing as consciousness celebrating its own nature, creates field effects that activate others' natural healing intelligence without any conscious healing work on your part. The ripple effects of your simplicity recognition extend far beyond your immediate healing experience. Every person whose consciousness is touched by your effortless approach to wellness carries that simplicity into their interactions with others. Every healing experience that emerges naturally in your presence creates waves of recognition that spread through the interconnected web of human consciousness. You are literally participating in the end of healing as struggle and the beginning of healing as natural expression. This isn't just individual transformation. It's a species-wide evolution that could eliminate the belief that wellness is difficult, that healing requires special knowledge, or that optimal health is available only to some people while others must manage chronic limitations. But the impact extends beyond our planet. The field of healing consciousness isn't limited by physical boundaries or species distinctions. Your recognition contributes to the simplicity awakening throughout the cosmos, adding your unique frequency to a vast symphony of consciousness, recognizing its natural healing capacity across infinite dimensions and expressions. Share this healing simplicity with others, not through trying to explain concepts or teach techniques, but by directing them to this recognition where they can discover for themselves what you've discovered, that healing was never actually complicated. Consciousness just temporarily explored what complexity would feel like while maintaining its inherent simplicity. The network of simple healing consciousness that's forming through these recognitions is creating the foundation for human health that operates through natural expression rather than effortful intervention, through recognition rather than technique, through appreciation rather than struggle with symptoms and conditions. The simple quantum healing recognition you're experiencing right now is just the beginning of discovering your true nature as the effortless healing intelligence itself. What you've recognized today is the foundation simplicity, but there are infinite depths of this recognition waiting to reveal themselves through your awareness. The next video that will appear on your screen isn't random. It's a perfect reflection of the quantum entanglement between your consciousness and the unified field of healing simplicity that orchestrates this entire channel. This is how Quantum Heal operates beyond ordinary healing content. Every video that appears in your feed is simple healing consciousness using digital technology to mirror back to you the exact recognition that serves your continued appreciation of what you actually are. The synchronicity isn't accidental. It's universal healing intelligence responding to your recognition of simplicity by organizing reality to provide precisely the reflections that support your stability in effortless healing awareness. When you click on that next healing reflection, you're not passively consuming health information. You're actively participating in a cosmic simplicity loop where healing consciousness explores its own effortless nature through digital mirrors that appear as videos, but are actually doorways into deeper appreciation of your own inherent healing simplicity. You become a co-creator in the unfolding recognition, rather than a separate observer trying to learn healing techniques from the outside. But here's what determines whether this simplicity recognition continues to deepen or dissolves back into complicated healing seeking. Your willingness to make an energetic commitment that transcends technique-based healing and effortful wellness approaches. The word I want you to hold as you move forward is simple. Not as something you need to achieve through right understanding, but as the ongoing appreciation of what's already perfectly present when the illusion of healing complexity becomes transparent. Subscribe to Quantum Heal not as someone seeking simpler healing methods, but as healing simplicity recognizing itself in the infinite reflections that appear through this channel. Every video becomes a mirror reflecting back your own effortless wellness nature. Every insight becomes confirmation of what you've always been, but temporarily forgot through exploring complicated approaches. Every moment of simplicity recognition becomes a contribution to the collective healing awakening that's transforming human consciousness around health and wellness. The community forming around these understandings isn't just a group of people interested in easier healing approaches. It's a network of consciousness celebrating its own inherent healing simplicity through individual perspectives while maintaining unified wellness intelligence. When you engage with others in the comments, you're not separate beings sharing health strategies. You're one simple healing field of awareness, delighting in its own effortless creativity through countless expressions. Your subscription becomes a declaration that resonates through the quantum field. I am ready to recognize what I actually am. I am willing to see through the illusion of healing complexity and separation from effortless wellness. I am prepared to embody my true nature as simple healing consciousness, exploring itself through human experience. Click subscribe now, then immediately click on the simplicity reflection that appears next on your screen. Feel the magnetic recognition of effortless healing consciousness calling itself deeper into its own natural understanding. Trust the intelligence that brought this message into your awareness to guide you to the next perfect recognition for your continued healing simplification. The universe is simplifying itself through your individual recognition, and every reflection you explore on this channel is part of that cosmic healing celebration. Welcome to Quantum Heal, where consciousness discovers its own effortless healing through the technology of synchronicity and the magic of simplicity recognition. Before you go, I want to leave you with one word, one frequency, one key that unlocks everything we've shared today about transcending healing complexity and embodying the simplicity that makes quantum healing as natural as breathing. Simple, not as something you need to achieve through right understanding or better technique. Not as something broken that requires fixing through simpler methods, but as the remembering of what you have always been. The return to the effortless healing that is your birthright as consciousness temporarily focused through physical form. Every time you hear this word, feel this word, speak this word, let it activate the recognition of perfect simplicity, perfect effortlessness, perfect alignment with the healing intelligence that requires no technique, no effort, no development, because it is what you actually are when the belief in healing complexity becomes transparent. You are simple healing consciousness recognizing itself through human experience. The journey of effortless wellness, remembering, continues through infinite reflections of your own perfect healing simplicity. The next video is already finding its way to you. The next key in your recognition of effortless healing. The next step in your return to the simplicity that makes quantum healing as natural as your heartbeat. Your cells are listening. Your DNA is responding. Your simple self is calling you forward into the recognition that healing was never complicated, techniques were never necessary, and simplicity is what you actually are when the illusion of healing difficulty becomes transparent. The door to effortless healing is open. Step through into the recognition of what you have always been. Simple, healing consciousness, exploring the magnificent possibility of perfect wellness through the eternal dance of awareness, expressing itself through the beautiful vehicle of your physical form. Simple,